Coming up on Cannabis Coast to Coast News with Alaina Pinto this week. All quiet on the federal front because the government is closed for business. That means no movement on safe banking, no movement on rescheduling, and now even the DOJ and the Supreme Court want some more time to deliberate over gun rights for cannabis consumers. Plus, reports of coercion and slimy tactics for signature collections coming out of Massachusetts, where the prohibitionist group SAM is trying to shut down the industry and now is eyeing the state of Maine. We'll talk with Chris Ferrone from the Talking Joints Memo, who is always in the middle of everything in the Bay State.
Like I said, if it's such a great initiative, it's such a good idea, why do you have to lie to people to even get the signatures, let alone to get it to pass?
Plus, Massachusetts-based multi-state operator MaryMed is pulling out of the Missouri market, where they had been hired as a managed service consultant for over a year. And in Ohio, once again, a hemp ban was passed by the House, and it goes nowhere when it reaches the Senate. And now it goes back to committee. Ohio lobbyist Tim Johnson from CannabisSafetyFirst.com tries to explain what is going on at the Columbus State House.
As typical in Ohio, the GOP leadership has found a way again, and this is their words from the GOP president of Ohio, is to delay, deny, and deceive the voter so that you can get out of them what you want.
It's the first week of November, and the Commonwealth of Virginia will be electing its first female governor. One is more in favor of adult use than the other. Joe Parsons will have that for us. All that and international reports, including a story on the Columbian president urging President Trump to legalize cannabis with a post on X. No kidding. All that and more on Cannabis Coast to Coast News with Alaina Pinto next.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cannabis Coast to Coast News, WPCM TV's weekly coverage of the fight to end cannabis prohibition here in the United States and now around the world. I'm Alaina Pinto. It's been over a month now since the federal government closed, and the impasse continues. Democrats blame the Republicans, and the Republicans blame the Democrats, and the impact of the shutdown is being felt in every aspect of society. Even talk or rumors about rescheduling cannabis has slowed down, while advocacy lobbyists are all looking for help and support from consumers and the industry. The only hint at any changes at the federal level actually come from non-action from the U.S. Supreme Court. That group has agreed to hear arguments about the Second Amendment rights to bear arms and if cannabis consumers should be allowed to own firearms. But now the Supreme Court is asking for more time before they deliver a judgment. That request for delay is actually being interpreted as a positive sign for rescheduling, since the Plant Medicines Control and potential move off Schedule 1 could change their eventual decision. The biggest move this week in Washington, D.C. came from the Federal Reserve when they cut interest rates by 0.25%. So what impact will that have on the flow of capital to the cannabis industry? Probably not much on the business side, but consumers appreciate any reduction in interest rates. This week, our executive producer, Jimmy Young, had an opportunity to talk with the CEO of fund Canna, Adam Stettner. His company has facilitated over $425 million in fundings for cannabis-related businesses since their inception 4 years ago. Here's Jimmy and Adam.
Thanks, Alaina. Yes, we're so proud to have the CEO of Fund Canna. His name is Adam Stettner with us, and this particular interview will have double duty. We'll actually run it on our own network at WPCMTV.com, but also for our Cannabis Coast to Coast News show. And Adam, thank you so much for joining us here today. You have created one of the most successful lending arms in the cannabis industry, and for that you deserve a prize, because this is not an easy detail at all, and yet you've managed to deliver over, actually, I'd like to get that number. I hear reports 300, I hear 400 million. How many millions of dollars of loans have you pumped into the cannabis industry since you started Fund Canna?
Well, Jimmy, first, thank you for having us on the show. I appreciate it. And then to answer your question directly, we've underwritten about 5,000 transactions. We funded about 3,500 transactions. We've approved close to a half a billion, 500 million. And clients have drawn about $225 million so far.
Gotcha. And of course, I did some research, so I saw varying reports. So I figured I'd go right to the source, and I hope you're comfortable with that. Let's start with the news of the week. The Fed dropped the interest rates by 0.25%. What impact will that have on your business?
None. And the reason I say that, I certainly don't mean it dismissively, but I deal with the same thing that the rest of this industry deals with. And the fact that we are all, this is the crazy part. And I think your listeners will be interested to hear. I'm in a Class A office building, a regular office. I'm surrounded by medical practice and you name it. There is no cannabis anywhere nearby, but we are treated as an institution no differently than the plant touching clients we service.
So Fund Canna is just another CRB or MRB, a cannabis related business, just like all of us in the industry. You know, you can't deal or bank with traditional banks. You have to find credit unions or pay sometimes exorbitant fees. Now, that doesn't matter whether you're $1 million business or a much smaller one. The rest of that interview is now available in its entirety on WPCMTV.com. That's our website, our homepage, and it will also be released on our YouTube channel later this week on Thursday. For now, let's go back to Cannabis Coast to Coast News and Alaina Pinto.
One other note from our nation's capital: 39 attorney generals from different states wrote a letter to Congress asking for more clarity on the federal definition of exactly what hemp is. You remember that the Farm Bill of 2018 created a legal definition of 0.3% THC in dry weight. But as you all know, that has only created more confusion. It also started a $30 billion plus industry that is unregulated and federally legal. And now you have some states banning all THC-infused products. Others allow these products to be sold openly at gas stations, convenience stores, and smoke shops. It's no wonder the state attorney generals are frustrated by the so-called loophole. And now that letter is urging Congress to ban all THC-infused products. But since the Congress is shut down, don't you wonder if anyone is home in the Capitol to open it? Well, Kerry Hinkle is our hemp reporter, and he has more on this latest effort to fix the confusion from a bill that was passed 7 years ago. Here's Kerry.
I'm Kerry Hinkle with Bayou City Hemp out of Houston, Texas, and I'm back again with another hemp report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. This week, we turn our attention to Washington, D.C., where Congressman Andy Harris and Senator Mitch McConnell are continuing to debate how to handle hemp products in the agriculture appropriations bill. You may remember in July, Senator Rand Paul held up the entire package over hemp, and it sounds like now the entire government shutdown could be held up over the issue of hemp. Now, what's changed is that on Tuesday, Rand Paul held a webinar with thousands of participants from the hemp industry in which he urged everyone to get involved and mentioned that he's having negotiations right now with Andy Harris on what the hemp language could look like in the bill, and that both sides really are not interested in moving on their position. And when both principals in DC do not want to move on an issue, this is when the public gets involved. And so through social media campaigns like #HempHelps and almost every single hemp industry organization urging their members to get involved, I checked in with friends on Monday in Capitol Hill and things were quiet. Those same people on Thursday said, yes, no, we've received hundreds of emails and calls now. And a little inside baseball here, every week, DC offices will compile a report for the member, and it says we have X amount of calls or emails over each issue, and top 3 or 5 usually get reported to the boss. Starting Monday, hemp was not going to be one of those issues. Friday, it's clear that in many offices come Monday, they will be talking about, wait, what's going on with this issue? Wait, we're trying to ban hemp in one paragraph and a 1,000-page bill, and the entire government could remain shut down over this? What are we doing? Is similar conversations I had with friends on Capitol Hill this week. So Vibes were low on Monday, much higher on Friday in the hemp industry, but still, as of October 31st, there has been no deal struck, although it's clear pressure is ramping to strip that language. Again, for Cannabis Coast to Coast News and Bayou City Hemp, I'm Kerry Hinkle. I'll see you again next week.
Now, as we start our state reports, we start in Ohio, where last week the House there passed a bill to ban those THC-infused products. And now that bill went to the Senate this week, where they shut it down until next year, and the issue returns to committee. State lobbyist and the head of CannabisSafetyFirst.com, Tim Johnson, has some insight on what is going on in Ohio.
As typical in Ohio, the GOP leadership has found a way again, and this is their words from the GOP president of Ohio, is to delay, deny, and deceive the voter so that you can get out of them what you want. He said it several times. It is what it is. So we've seen that same thing happen here last week. And it's still discriminatory by saying the hemp industry can do cannabinoids that has THC in it, but the cannabis industry can't. And if you're going to put it into, I think it's 4305 semicolon 1-03, I believe, in the revised code, liquor statute says that you can't sell marijuana or have marijuana in a liquor licensed facility in Ohio. Well, when you put a hemp THC drink in there, that's marijuana. You can call it hemp. It's still THC. So why can't then, if that's true, can I go out on the patio where they're smoking cigars and tobacco and smoke a hemp joint that's 0.3%,
Right.
or even smoke a joint?
Who out on that patio is going to have a measuring device to see, okay, which one was 0.3% dry weight in the beginning? And
Yeah.
you know what? As usual, the people making the decisions and the laws really don't understand how the plant works. And
They don't.
This is where one of the biggest things they should just take a botany course or talk to any of the growers so that they understand that THC, it works. In fact, watch the video that President Trump put out there, because it was the best explanation of how the endocannabinoid system works in our bodies that I have seen. It was the first time I looked at something and I go, now that's a public service announcement,
He
right?
finally got one thing right. In all his political pandering, he got one good commercial out.
And again, he didn't do it other than to post it. Let's just make sure we understand that. Okay.
He's not going to do that. Let's be real.
Exactly. And Fox picked it up. Oh, what a shock, right? And again, I get it. Okay. It still always boils down to educating the people that are making our laws. They think they're doing the right thing based on their own experience, their own knowledge, as opposed to listening to their constituents, because that takes effort, Tim.
It does. And we've always focused on educational awareness as a key. It's a phrase I've used for the 10, 11 years I've been at the State House.
And with more from Ohio, here's Christina Brisson.
I'm Christina Brisson with Over the Top Renovations with your weekly Ohio Cannabis Report with Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I would say surprise, surprise, but we all know it isn't one, that the Senate did not agree on the House revised bill. It was their own original Senate Bill 56, which involves intoxicating hemp products, a little language about where the tax revenue is going to go, as well as revisions to the cannabis law. However, it was a 32-0 vote. And on top of that, the Franklin County Court has actually decided to extend the ban against Mike DeWine's executive order prohibiting the sale of intoxicating hemp products. The next hearing is on December 2nd. That was a little bit of a surprise, I think, some of us. And notice we have two battles going on that if they could come to an agreement, we wouldn't have all of our forces and resources put into the two different places. We could have an agreement and just be done with both battles. But they've got everything together and not wanting to play nice. So hopefully there's more to come. I am Christina Brisson with your weekly Ohio Cannabis Report with Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
There are two state governor races that will be decided this week. One is in New Jersey, where Republican Jack Citronelli is being challenged by Democrat Mikey Sherrill, who is leading in the polls. In Virginia, there is a distinct difference between the two-party candidates. Both are women, and one will emerge as the first female governor of Virginia. The Democrat is Abigail Spanberger, and the Republican is the current Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears. Over the past few weeks, Joe Parsons has been doing a great job of reporting on the differences between the two, and he will have two reports for us this week. One today in a preview and a special report to follow on Wednesday when we release the C Block. So here's Joe.
I'm Joe Parsons with the Virginia Cannabis Connection by Higher Education's Coffee Talk, sponsored by 97.5 3WB, and reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Big Marijuana has joined in Virginia's hot hemp war. Jushi Holdings Incorporated claimed that DoorDash, Total Wine, and other defendants have engaged in a, quote, deliberate and coordinated scheme to erode Virginia's heavily regulated medical cannabis market by selling intoxicating cannabinoid products that run afoul of state law, end quote. They also said that, quote, disguised as lawful hemp, these products are, in reality, potent and dangerous forms of marijuana, offered without the mandatory safeguards, regulations, and testing or oversight that the Commonwealth imposes on licensed cannabis operators such as ourselves. They accused DoorDash, who partnered with Total Wine to develop THC-infused beverages and gummies, of deception and attempting to flood the marketplace with unregulated illegal cannabis products. Virginia has already imposed a ban in 2023 on hemp-derived products and has recently been actively enforcing these regulations. Jushi is asking for a jury trial to settle the issue and is seeking over $80 million from the defendants over the claimed economic injury from the alleged unfair competitive advantage. This may be perceived as another blow to the adult use and a big win for big out-of-state players for the medical market. However, it remains to be seen how the lawsuit will be received by consumers and advocates who may view the legal challenge as an attempt to stamp out competition by eliminating a source for the adult use consumers with no other access for non-medical patients. Well, that's going to do it for this week from Higher Education's Coffee Talk, sponsored by 97.5 3WB in Charlottesville, and reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm Joe Parsons. Until next time, stay lifted.
In California this week, the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors repealed a controversial cannabis tax with a unanimous vote of 4-0. This tax has been part of that rich cultivation area since voters actually approved it in 2016. And at the time, there was hope that the cannabis industry would grow exponentially during the so-called green rush. Instead, it crashed. This tax was based on the square footage of cultivation sites, but the market correction that has crushed the California cannabis industry made the implementation of this tax unfair. That's why the Board of Supervisors reversed what the voters had put in place when everyone thought the green rush was going to continue. According to county reports, there was $11 million of unpaid tax debt, and enforcement costs would have exceeded the revenue the tax had brought in. Well, now let's check in with Michigan, a state that is dealing with the fallout over their own tax increase. Here's Amie Carter from the Michigan Weedsters, and her report is sponsored by Wally's Wonder World of handmade, customizable humidors.
This is mold on wheat, this is mold on weed, and this is what this Wonder World plant is supposed to look like. Do you want to make sure this never happens to your precious flower? Check out the handmade humidors by Fenton, Michigan craftsman Gregory Johnson. Each humidor can hold 1 ounce of your stash, and it comes with a Boveda humidity pack. You care about your flower, so protect it inside a humidor made with American-grown maple, cherry, or sapele wood. Check out their website at wallyswonderworld.com. There you'll find the famous award-winning Hakuna Matata No Worries Humidor. You'll also find a variety of humidors with different designs. They even customize accessories like doobie tubes, grinders, and even a classic roach clip from the 70s. Treat your stash with class with a custom-made, handmade humidor from wallyswonderworld.com, and never worry about moldy weed again.
I'm Amie Carter with Michigan Weedsters, and here's your Michigan report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Michigan has been buzzing with cannabis activity these past few weeks, covering everything from new safety laws to what people are reaching for when they can't sleep. Lawmakers in Lansing are zeroing in on 2 major areas of enforcement. First, they want to give the CRA the power to instantly suspend licenses, allowing them to quickly shut down shady dispensaries. On the other side, they're looking to crank up penalties for illegal growers and tighten rules on how much cannabis Michiganders can possess. Still, some advocates remain firmly opposed to sending anyone to prison over cannabis offenses. Safety is a huge concern this week as officials report that cigarettes, joints, and vapes are sparking a troubling number of deadly fires. These smoking materials are reportedly accounting for up to 1/4 of fatal blazes this year. The danger is especially pronounced when people are smoking while also using medical oxygen. A medical dispenser in Ypsilanti, Budbridge LLC, is facing heat for allegedly giving away large amounts of cannabis concentrate under a fake customer name. Regulators flagged transactions involving nearly 2,000 grams of concentrate product that was reportedly handed out to customers for free. This massive giveaway allegedly used multiple profiles under the fake name Chris Peterson, a practice which led to an inaccurate tracking and may have resulted in customers exceeding the legal limit for possession. On the legislative front, state lawmakers are pushing for a new requirement to educate students and parents on the dangers of vaping, tobacco, and cannabis products. The hope is that these educational efforts will curb the use among those under 21. Finally, a University of Michigan study found a surprising trend. More than 1 in 5 young adults are reaching for weed or booze to help them sleep. Researchers caution that while this habit might provide initial relief, it could ultimately end up messing with long-term sleep quality. That is it for this week. I am Amie Carter with Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
The Michigan Report is sponsored by Wally'sWonderworld.com.
That'll do it for the A block or first section of our news show this week. But when we come back, we'll take a look at the international markets and later a movement in Massachusetts to collect ballot signatures that will pose a question repealing many of the gains in adult use in the Bay State and their savory methods of collecting those signatures to get access to the ballot. Cannabis Coast to Coast News continues after this break.
Your cannabis business could be overpaying by hundreds of thousands of dollars in federal income taxes because of one simple assumption that you're making about your accountant. A dispensary owner in Colorado called me frustrated as hell. He'd been working with the same accountant for 3 years. His accountant said, "What's 471C?" Here's what the ignorance of that accountant was costing this business owner: $180,000 every single year for 3 years. 471C has been around since 2017. We're talking about an 8-year-old tax provision that many cannabis CPAs don't fully understand. 471C is one of the most complex and highly debated tax strategies in the cannabis industry. If you want to make sure you're not leaving any money on the table, I'm offering free 471C reviews this month. Link in the description.
Accounting Buds has grown into Buds Group, the same award-winning quality, now with more service offerings. Buds Group, your best buds in the biz.
Looking for PR that over-delivers on expectations? At Maverick Public Relations, they pair big agency experience with personalized attention. From launching award-winning brands to securing top-tier media hits, their data-driven communications team helps visionary leaders and entrepreneurs rise above the media noise. Maverick PR is responsive, collaborative, and relentless about results and ROI. Visit themaverickpr.com and make headlines together.
If you want to make history, if you want to be part of history, if you want to say you helped legalize marijuana in America, now is the time to join us.